Once you learn how to trick your brain, accomplishing goals will become super easy. What's up, everybody? I'm Ross Quintana, and today we're doing day 2 of our New Year's Energy series. If you haven't checked out day 1, go check it out. But today we're going to be talking about how to trick your brain into accomplishing your goals with no willpower needed. So the first thing that we want to talk about is that your brain wants habits. This is how your brain fundamentally works. When you're a child, you're learning things. It's pattern recognition. And so the way you learn a word by associating a picture to a sound or a set of sounds, and then you repeat it and you repeat it and you repeat it. And as a child, you are in discomfort when you're in the unknown. And most adults are the same way too. So what we like is repetition. What we like is habits, habitual things. They make up our personality. There are tendencies. We get in a rut. And now this can work for or against you, because either it's working against you because maybe your bad habit is maybe you're not eating very well and you love sweets. And so that's your habit and you're constantly going back to it. And then when your body has a series of habits, it's having an output that if this was my habit, then this is my output. Now, that also flips around and works for you the other way. That when you have good habits, and let's say that you're just working out on a regular basis, that good habit is going to, over a long timeline, going to produce certain outcomes that are going to be in your favor as well. And so because our brain works this way, the very way we know things, the way we acquire knowledge is we take this new thing and we repeat it enough times that it stores it in our mind. And then when we go back and think about that thing, we're drawing, just like a database, we're drawing that memory back out. And it's the same way in our actions. This isn't just intellectual, this is also in our habitual actions. And once you understand that that's what the brain wants to know what it knows. It wants to go back to the same thing and go, wow, that's a car. That's the color blue. A is for apple. Your brain loves consistency. And so once you understand that, you can easily track back and understand that a lot of the things that are holding you back are bad habits, and your brain wants to go back to them. This is what makes change so difficult when you're fighting against the stasis, the habit, the knowledge, the memory that you've created, those habitual actions, those habitual things that you do. And so what we want to do is I'm going to show you exactly how you can break that and actually flip it over and start tricking your brain to working for you instead of against you. The first thing is you want to focus on small repetitions. So many people, when they want to make a change, they create a New Year's resolution. And what they're doing, if you think about how the brain works, is they're saying, this is where I am, but I want to be something totally different. And so your brain is like, no, I don't want something different. I want to stay where I am. That's my happy place, because the unknown is scary. It tries to avoid, because the basic human need for survival is, well, I don't want to go into that dark alley. I don't know what's down there. Or maybe it's something dangerous. And so we want to stay where we feel comfortable. That's why a baby, when it's a little baby, you swaddle it up and it's comforting. It could get overstimulated. It doesn't know how to use its hands, and so its hand pokes itself in the eye and it's like, what is that? I don't like that. And it starts crying. So it wants to be swaddled. It wants to know exactly that it's comfortable and it's safe in the same place. Your brain works that way. If you know that's the tendency, then you can start to align your goals with stability. Align your goals with safety. When that becomes the new normal, then your brain will actually want to stay working out, want to stop the bad habits, right? You have to make those the uncomfortable thing, and the new actions that you want, the comfortable, stable, repetitious habit. And that's how you'll change entirely. So it's just a simple move to realign those. Now, the first thing that you do is focus on small repetitions. The small repetitions, I talked about it in video 1 about how discipline is better and consistency is better than focus. It's better than inspiration. Inspiration, energy, focus, those things fade. Especially if they're not aligned with where your brain wants to be, then your brain will just move right back. If you have a habit of eating sugar and ice cream every night before you go to bed, and then you're like, I want to eat kale. And it's like, no, you don't. That's a lie, and your brain knows it. And so it goes, I don't want kale. I want ice cream at night. So the first thing is to map out what are the good and bad habits that you do on a regular basis. Just draw it out on a piece of paper. Just take a piece of paper out. What are my good habits? Or just list all your habits, and then you can categorize them and goes, well, what's the output of this? What do I do every day? Well, when do you wake up? I wake up at this time. Is that good or bad? Is waking up an hour earlier better for you or worse for you? Oh, I go to bed at, midnight. Is that good for your body? Bad for your body? How does that affect all the things the next day? Am I always behind, running late for work? Am I always stressed out? And maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe your nutrition is garbage. Maybe you're eating, sugar and all that constantly as a reward. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Is that a good output or a bad output? And I'm not saying you need to eat kale all the time. Actually, there's many ways to win that doesn't include having a miserable life. You can actually have it all. You can have your treats and you can have all your stuff as long as you understand what it does, when it's best, and how much is best. You can realign your habits, and that's a great way to trick your brain. You don't go out there and say, well, no more sweets for you. It's nothing but kale and tofu. Your brain's probably going to reject that hardcore. Now, if you say, hey, of course we can have sweets, but right now we're eating only sweets and we have no good nutrients, let's add in something but not take away the sweets. That's a great beginner step to say, okay, we're going to create something new, but we're not going to take away the old. Everybody always tries to take away that stability from the brain that it likes and that habit and then replace it with something it doesn't like. And that just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, then you can't create repetition. If you don't have repetition, you don't have habit, and it will never form a new habit. So that is way too difficult and too dramatic. So what we want to look is small repetition. So start off with what are your habits? And then what areas of your life do they affect? And what are some new habits that you would need to get the result, as we talked about before? Don't say, well, I want the result. The result, that is not compelling enough to your brain. What is the habit that gets that result? If I want $10,000 in savings, well, then the habit would be that when I get paid, I need to put some money over there. I don't care if it's $1 from each paycheck. Then I can calculate out and say 10,000 paychecks later, I have $10,000. If you want to accelerate that, you accelerate it. But here's the fun thing. Most people think, well, I'm just going to, make this dramatic change. Again, remember, your brain is willing to make small changes that it doesn't notice. You can kind of trick it. It's like the old frog in the boiling water. You put the frog in boiling water, it just jumps out. But if you put it in room temperature water and just slowly increase the temperature just 1 degree at a time, eventually it won't notice the change. And before you know it, it's sitting in boiling water. It should jump out. It's going to kill it, but it doesn't understand that because the brain's the same way. If you can make small changes, if you can focus on small repetitions and not remove, maybe start off with just adding. Maybe you add and then a real small increment, and then you remove a small increment. You just replace. But it's very subtle. So subtle, your brain doesn't know. The brain doesn't mind. I don't care if you eat 1 bite of broccoli. You don't need to eat, all broccoli, get rid of all the foods that you love, right? I think that's a big mistake because it's not going to allow to, number one, trick the brain. It's not going to allow the repetition needed to create the habit. And once the habit takes over, your brain works on habits, a whole series of habits. Your day is not unique. You're not a new snowflake every day, one of a kind. The fact is, the day that you have is usually pretty similar to the day you had before. And if you mapped out the last few years, you're going to find these patterns repeating from when you wake up to when you go to bed. There's some variance, but a lot of it's habits because those habits become anchors. And those anchors are ultimately responsible for your outputs. So if you want a new output, you want a new goal, then you have to say, what is the thing that if I did that one thing over and over again, consistently, what would turn into the thing that I want? And then you focus that that's your focal point. Don't worry about the goal, because then the goal is only a function of time. If I can do the thing consistently long enough, I'll get to the goal. If I go out of my home and I start walking from this side of the country to the next side, as long as I keep moving forward, if I don't stop, then every step I take is 1 step less to my goal. Then I can literally calculate out how many more steps. If it's 1 million steps to get from here to New York City, then If I take one step, that's one less than a million. This is really the key to accomplishing everything. The problem is people try and swallow the whole ocean in one gulp. And then their body, which is anchored to a different thing, says, nah, I'm not going to do it. And then they fail, and then they're demotivated, and they never make it. When in reality, it's just the little small repetitions. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you do one push-up. That's one more push-up than you had yesterday, which was 0. Figure out what's the thing that if you keep doing it, or what's the tiny bite you can take, what's the micro thing you can do, and do that. Next is rewards, reinforce. So we talked about the small repetitions. We talked about the power of habit. We talked about the safe anchor and not taking away too much, but you can try and take away. And if your brain starts to reject it, you took too much. So put it back. You need to eat that Snickers bar, then eat that Snickers bar. Maybe you save one little bite you didn't eat. You give it to your kids or something. That's the micro little movements. You do that, but you do it consistently. A lot of people eat way too much sugar. Sugar is just not good for you. I hardly eat any sugar. The funny thing is as you wean yourself off of sugar, it starts to taste gross. Like somebody offers me, oh, you want a cookie? And it's like, no, because I start to remember, because now my habit is that I don't eat a lot of sugar. And so now if I eat it, I'm like, I always think, how do I feel afterwards? Which is terrible usually. It tastes good when you're eating it, and then instantly afterwards, I'm like, get this out of my mouth. My body doesn't like sugar once you get off of it. But you need to, again, ease away just a little until you get so far away from shore that going back is now the big leap, right? Going back is too much work because you start in your way to your next little tiny micro gain, your little micro goal. Eventually you get so far away from shore from where you were that it's actually too hard to go back. Your brain's working for you. You've tricked it. You've moved the goalpost just a little every day, and it doesn't notice it until you're a mile away from where you used to be. And along the way, your brain likes a reward. A lot of our habits are there because there's some kind of payoff. There's a reward for staying up too late. Figure out what those rewards are and offer an alternate reward for doing that. Sometimes people don't reward themselves. They don't even say good job to themselves. If you did one push-up, celebrate that. Good job. Say it out loud. Good job. Because that's one more than you had before. And now, the next day, I'm not going to allow myself to fail. I just need to get my other one. Is it 1? Maybe I go for 2. If I'm only going for 1, now I'm at 2 push-ups. That's more than I had before when I had 0. Celebrate your wins. I don't care if you give yourself a reward. I don't care if you eat some potato chips or have a cupcake. At the end of the day, you're looking long term that if I can reward that and develop that habit, I think there's better rewards than that. But if you need to, give yourself a reward and say, hey, I'm going to do small things and I'm going to reward myself in the moment, because that's just like how social media works. You don't need to eat a cupcake to get a reward. You're sitting there scrolling on TikTok. Your brain is lighting up with dopamine, right? And you're getting these rewards. Seeing this new exciting thing. Oh, what's that surprise? Oh, that's funny. Oh, this and that. It works. Why do you think people are so addicted? Why do you think they're controlling your behavior to stay on their platform so they can make more money? They need to keep you there. You can learn from that because you get a little payoff. You get a little point of interest. So, okay, you can even use that. You want to, if you love social media and that's your little reward center, cool. Say, you know what? I'm going to do 1 push-up. Then I'm going to watch a few TikToks. I'm going to do 1 more push-up and watch a few more. The key is your brain is either working for you or against you. You have to trick it. In a sense, it's smart, but in a sense, it's stupid. It could easily be tricked. And marketers and social media companies, they're already tricking your brain into getting your time, into manipulating your mind with dopamine, with little rewards. So make sure that when you're on your journey, you're doing small repetitions and you're giving yourself little micro rewards. If you do that, you're going to start to understand, wait a minute, I can hack my own brain. I can get myself to change habits and then stay in those habits and then do those habits just like you doom scroll on TikTok for 4 hours. What if you were doom working out and eating healthy and learning new things and advancing in your career and finding the better relationships that you wanted and becoming the higher potential? What happens when you learn to unlock that? What happens when that becomes what your brain likes? That becomes your stable habit. When you have that growth mindset, that accomplishment mindset, where you've trained your brain and rewarded it and you just start getting addicted to it and you say, man, I love accomplishing things. That's what we're talking about, but we got to go with the smallest steps along the way. So that's it for today. I want you to think about those things. What are the things that you want to accomplish? What little movements can move you towards that direction? How do I reinforce it? Practice that, put that into practice, and try it out. Our next video is how to create momentum. I'm going to talk about in day 3, I'm going to talk about momentum versus motivation. Everyone thinks, oh, I need to be motivated. Look, New Year's gives you motivation, but that fades real fast. The key is to convert that into momentum. I'm going to talk about that in the next video. If you like the video, let me know, because as a content creator, hey, you know what? I'm spending my time, my life to make content that I think you might enjoy and benefit and change your life. And so the best thing you can do, then give that feedback loop. Hey, what are you working on? Declare it in the comments. I like the idea. I hate the idea. Here's how I utilized it today. Here's my small thing that I did. Here's what I think I'm going to reinforce it with. This is a community, and so your ideas help other people. They go, oh, I hadn't thought about doing that, or hey, that's a good goal. Maybe I can do that. It inspires other people, and that is another form of energy, the community energy, that helps everybody accomplish more. So let me know in the comments what you think, like and share. And then I've got some resources also. Look in the description, some support services. If you want some audio inspiration every day, I have a service for that. If you want some one-on-one consulting and you want to talk about your goals and you want some accountability and some help and inspiration, you want to have some back and forth with me, then that's available too. And I will see you on day 4 video. And if you haven't watched the whole series, you can go back to day 1 or follow the playlist. And I will see you on the next video.